don't know about you, but before COVID-19 struck, I used to find there was never really enough time to stand back and reflect, let alone to submerge oneself and pursue the trains of thought that get crowded out by one's daily preoccupations. And if you're a professional musician, it's very difficult to get off the merry-go-round of concert touring. I mean, you go to the airport, you go to the concert hall, you go to your hotel, then you're back to the airport, and so on and so on and so on and so on. But now, in this open-ended, uncharted period of lockdown, which is a time of bewilderment and also of soul-searching, it seems to me that the search for meaningful connections becomes still more important. And I've been drawn back into exploring a period of history, one of the major watersheds in European history, which has fascinated me ever since I was very, very small. It's the period of tumultuous change and advances in the sciences and the arts that took place in the early years of the 17th century. And I feel that all that interdisciplinary thinking that took place then between scientists and artists has a direct relevance for us now. While the music of Bach has been a cornerstone of my artistic life ever since I can remember, and Beethoven has loomed large in this 250th anniversary year, there's another composer who lived a full century before Bach and 2 centuries before Beethoven who has fascinated and inspired me ever since I was a child. Claudio Monteverdi. Now, his career straddled the year 1600 and coincides almost exactly with that of his more famous contemporaries, Shakespeare, Galileo, Kepler, Caravaggio, Rubens, and Francis Bacon. I mean, an exceptional generation of natural philosophers, artists, astronomers, and writers who extended the map of knowledge, overturned people's traditional views, and really ushered in the modern world as we know it. Together, they formed a dazzling constellation in which, for far too long, Monteverdi, who was just as radical and innovative as they were, has been the missing star. I wonder, was it simply because he was a musician? Despite the 400-year gap between his time and ours, Monteverdi's music jumps off the page into our 21st century ears, blazing with colour and probing psychological insight. And his sense of invention, his passion and sensuality, and above all his humanity, all play their part in his profound engagement with the turbulent world in which he found himself in the early 1600s. Take his madrigal settings of poems by Petrarch, Tasso, and Guarini, and how they bring the words vividly to life, and with a high-definition intensity which would feel perfectly at home in the modern cinema. And he could turn his formidable skills to pretty well any occasion and any genre. Doesn't matter if it was naval tournaments or sung ballets or Vespers music for the church or the privacy of the bedroom. And he was a pioneer in the brand new genre of opera, presenting to us theatrical characters from the heroic to the deeply flawed, drawn so compellingly and done with such detail that you can recognize their exact counterparts today. To begin with, I wondered whether I should explore Monteverdi as I did with Bach in the form of a book, and maybe I will. But I also long for people to hear his music and not just to read about it. And I promise there'll be an amazing selection of musical excerpts in this podcast series of his music and also by other composers. But I also wanted to introduce you to what a contemporary at the time called the intertraffic of the mind. And to that end, I recorded conversations with a whole host of experts in their different fields, exploring the parallel paths and the connections made in this period of seismic change by artists, by writers and natural philosophers, or scientists as we now call them. And so I came up with the idea of a series of 8 podcasts, each one devoted to a different facet of Monteverdi's life and focusing on the way this generation of innovators and game changers operated and bounced ideas off each other. I don't think it matters at all if you're into classical music or not. My hope is that by joining me in these podcasts, you'll enjoy the close connections we make between Monteverdi and Galileo and Kepler, both of whom used the language of music to articulate their astronomic discoveries and their scientific theories. And perhaps even more between Monteverdi and Shakespeare and Caravaggio, in the way they shared a probing of human emotions in all their diversity, and with such extraordinary accuracy as well as human empathy. But more than anything, I want you to hear and savor Monteverdi's music. It'll blow you away. And that's the real reason for these podcasts. So please do join me.